Today on the Sauna Talk bench, we welcome three guests who are aligned to help veterans through sauna as a means of healing our heroes. Their stories are heartfelt, their passions are clear, and for those of us who know sauna, we know that their purpose is meaningful and their success rate undeniable, i.e., sauna is good for us. Who is Healing Heroes Saunas? The co-founders, Mike and Josh. As introduction, Mike Lotzer. On the right side of the bench, we have Mike. He is lead pastor of Mercy Road Church in Burnsville, Minnesota, and he served in the military as Army Chaplain Corps from 2004 to 2012. Stateside, Mike served as a casualty notification chaplain, special troops battalion chaplain, and marriage strong bonds instructor. Also, he deployed in the Iraq War. Mike has walked with soldiers, families, and loved ones through extreme pain, both stateside and in combat zones. His experiences caring for dying soldiers have birthed a lifelong commitment to serve and empower warriors and their families. Mike has been married to his wonderful wife, Erica, for 18 years. The couple have 3 children and live in Lakeville, Minnesota. Mike has a BA in Comparative World Religion and Psychology from the University of Wisconsin, a Master of Divinity from the Fuller Theological Seminary, and a certification in Combat Medical Ministry and Suicide Prevention from the U.S. Army Medical Department. Kirk Jensen. Kurt is sitting on the center bench. Though not with Healing Heroes Saunas, we welcome back Kirk Jensen to Sauna Talk. Kurt is a longtime host and fellow board member of the 612 Sauna Society, and you can learn more about Kurt as he was a recent guest to the Sauna Talk podcast. Kurt spent 34 years in the Air Force. He retired as lieutenant colonel with over 7,000 hours as C-130 navigator. Kirk participated in every conflict during that time, including Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia, and Somalia. Kirk's day job is flight simulator trainer for the Air Force. And today you can find Kurt either near the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport doing Air Force flight training or alongside the 612 Society sauna where he is adding some firewood into the Kuma sauna stove and serves as long-standing sauna host. And over to Josh on the left side of the bench. Josh Meisberger. Age 42, Josh has been married for 19 years and has 2 wonderful teenage boys. Currently living outside of Minneapolis in Apple Valley, Minnesota, Josh and family sauna together frequently, 3 to 5 times a week, and enjoying their permanent wood-fired sauna in the backyard of their home. Josh and family are active members at Mercy Road Church in Burnsville. Josh spent 22 years in the military with 2 combat tours to Iraq before being medically retired for various military-related injuries. Currently, Josh owns a construction company, Rare Homes, Inc., where he and team do everything from small bathroom remodels all the way up to custom builds and commercial space work. Mike and he more recently started Healing Heroes Saunas as a way to give back to the men and women who serve our communities in hero roles, including veterans, police, firefighters, and all first responders, along with their families. Mike and Josh are currently working on their 501c3 filing, as well as fundraising, so that they can each expand our reach, providing hot and cold therapy. And Josh and Mike are very close to finishing their second sauna unit, which will be immediately deployed around the state of Minnesota. They have a long-term goal of 5 to 10 units in the state of Minnesota, as well as being able to build more permanent saunas at their residence for heroes on an application basis. So without further ado, I would like to welcome you to this episode. Real excited to bring this to you. Gives me great meaning and purpose, and you'll hear a little bit more about that on the bench as we welcome Mike, Josh, and Kirk to Sauna Talk. This show is brought to you by the Build Your Own Sauna ebook from saunatimes.com. Be it indoor electric, backyard wood-fired, or some combination in between, this is a practical guide that has helped hundreds, more likely thousands of would-be sauna enthusiasts as they realize their own authentic sauna dreams. With this easy-to-follow guide, we can settle into what's best for the individual. This book was written for you. As many of us know, the sauna building journey is often as rewarding as the destination. And as you talk with others, you'll find that this is the guide that can cut through a lot of the pedantic chatter and help you, just like with good heat, get right to the bones of sauna goodness. Interested? Please go to saunatimes.com and click the page at the top called ebook for more information. As bonus, for the month of August 2023, 50% of all book sales are being donated to Sauna Aid. Now, on to the show. Well, greetings, everybody, and we are literally on the sauna bench, and I'm with
Mike Lotzer,
Kirk Jensen,
Josh Meisberger.
And I'd like to just tee the ball up for open discussion about, we're going to dive right into the idea of sauna. Sauna is a healing mechanism in a very personal and relatable space to the three of you on the bench. And Mike, I thought I'd start with you, and if you could tell listeners of Sauna Talk your background and what you do, and a little word about how sauna is starting to relate to your background.
Yeah, glad to be here. Glenn, thank you for the time, and love your sauna here. I am a former Army chaplain. I did 8 years in the military, spent some time in the Middle East in the war in Iraq, did a year of casualty notification duty here in the States, knocking on doors and doing funerals, taught marriage skill courses, worked in a burn unit in Texas, kind of a varied career. And so as an Army officer, but also as one who is invested in the healing of warriors, active and veteran. Josh here, my partner in crime, really introduced me to the benefits of sauna, and that has been a part of my own healing regimen for the last 2.5 years. And really, I'm at a point now where it would make me profoundly anxious if someone said, "No, you can't do high heat therapy through sauna and cold plunge." Both of them are very important to me.
And two quick questions for you. Tell us about your current job, your day job, and then how often you sauna.
Okay, so I'm the lead pastor of Mercy Road Church in Burnsville. We're a church of about 700 people, and we have an unusually high percentage of both active duty military, a lot of the Minnesota Army National Guard, Air National Guard, and a lot of veterans of the Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam wars. So we do ramp building, marriage retreats. We have probably 4 or 5 pretty strong legacy military veteran family outreach. We've got a lot of Gold Star families who have lost loved ones in combat. And Healing Heroes sauna outreach that Josh really envisioned as part of Mercy Road has started to emerge as kind of the premier veteran outreach of Mercy Road, so much so that now we're filing for its own 501c3, and though it's still under the umbrella of the church, we've been supported by Teed Up for the Troops and Wounded Warrior Project and healing other healing hero groups that work in healthcare. We've had a number of Lakeville VFW just wrote us a check for $5,000, and so we're building a fleet of mobile saunas. Your question about frequency, I sauna as often as I can. This is the 3rd sauna in 48 hours for me.
Whoa!
So
great.
But probably about 4 times a week. I've got 3 young kids, so.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you. Over to you, Josh, real quick. How did you guys meet, and give us a little bit more of the background of the foundation of the newly being formed 501c3?
Yeah, I served in the military as well, 22 years. Spent some time active duty, Army Reserves, and National Guard. And both Mike and I kind of met in a former church he was pastoring, and like a lot of veterans who are looking for a church, there's something about a way a chaplain speaks to us, and the candidness and how they can lead. So that initially drew me to the church, and we ended up becoming really, really good friends through that. And my sauna experience and how this was born is I felt that I was being called to fast, and I went up to Ely, Minnesota, to a friend's cabin, and they had a sauna, and after 48 hours of no food and just water, I decided that I wanted to stoke that fire, and I think I was at 230 degrees, which is probably unsafe. We'll just mark that there.
After 48 hours of fasting,
Yes,
potentially
yes,
even
yes.
more unsafe.
Yes. It was -6 out. Spent some time in the sauna, getting a good sweat on, and then walking out onto the deck and down by the lake, and a foot of snow, and looking up at the stars, and just understanding the healing that was taking place right then and there. And I truly feel, and many may differ in this arena, as I felt God was saying, sauna is for you. And I felt him saying, go build a sauna for your community, not for you. Don't be selfish in this. The only selfish thing I did is I took my kid's playhouse in the backyard and said, you're done playing in it. And I built a sauna in there.
And that's not the first time either. I think
Right.
there should be a post on Sauna Times is playhouse to sauna conversion.
Yes.
I did much the same for a sauna, but it's a different story. So real quick on this this organization, the name, is the name defined?
The name is defined, Healing Heroes. And we define a hero as an active or former veteran of any military service, any police, first responders or firefighters, and their families. We love to include the families in there. So if someone's deployed, or if someone, say a firefighter doesn't like to sauna, but their family does, like that can be a healing opportunity for that family too.
Absolutely. Sure.
So we like to include the heroes and specialize them because each one of those organizations sees their own trauma, whether it be physical or mentally. And we truly believe that sauna is, quote unquote, not from a doctor, I am not a medical doctor, but sauna is a healing property in our lives.
Beautiful.
It's just a wonderful thing.
When was the Ely experience? Just a date stamp.
The Ely experience was 3 years ago. It was December I went, and then I came home, and it was in the negatives out. It was January 1st through the 10th that I stripped my kids of their playhouse and built the whole sauna. In 9 days, I built it in -20-degree weather with just a little heater inside, and it was fired up 9 days later. And I think Mike was probably the second person in there.
How great is that? Fantastic. Kurt, you're no stranger to sauna. Tell us, and you're no stranger to Sauna Talk. I encourage those listening. No. Kirk Jensen, 612 Sauna Society. Tell us your military background and your relationship to sauna.
Yeah, so I spent 34 years in the Minnesota Air Guard, 6 enlisted, and I got commissioned as a flight officer, as a navigator for 28 years, and probably similar experiences to what Mike and Josh have, with OIF, OEF, and spending time in Bagram and Baghdad and all those places around there. Retired in 2016. Coincidentally, that was a year that our co-op launched, had its first operational year after you and JP and all the fellows that preceded me actually conceived of, designed, and built it. My sauna origin story is actually very similar to Josh's. I was at Camp du Nord in Ely on Burnside Lake there, YMCA family camp that has a beautiful wood-fired sauna. And that was my introduction where I fell in love with wood-fired sauna. Came home from that experience, started cyber stalking saunas in the metro area, and that's when the 612 website had just launched.
Yeah.
Started hosting that year, so I've been hosting ever since. I guess that's coming up on 8 years now, and been on the board for 4 years.
Yeah.
And when you explained to me the broad outlines of what Mike and Josh were doing, I could see how it would fit together right away. Sometimes with people that have been through trauma or need to have somebody to talk to, it's difficult to get that conversation going. Much harder, I think, in a therapist's office than it would be just a couple of guys hanging out on the sauna bench. That conversation would come more naturally and be a gateway to further conversations and further wellness measures for that, for that individual. So I could see that right away.
Yeah, to tee the ball up further on that, Mike, if you want to throw some water, make some steam, I'm going to put you on the spot while the steam rises. Is how the metaphor of this steam and the heat is opening the pores of our skin, certainly, but it's also opening up our minds, like in the openness and taking a guard down, like in the whole early budding stages here, of the Healing Heroes. Can you give us an example or your own opinion of how that is not strictly a metaphor, but something real about how the physical opening, through sweat and all that is creating a more of an emotional or mental opening as well?
Sure. Well, I mean, warriors, people who have served in the military or first responders, nothing is just given. You earn that through a fight. Your physical fitness, your rank, your position, different military schools, whether it's airborne, ranger, special forces, buds, whatever. And so when a warrior is medically retired or retires after 20 years, or like in my case, we just wanted to have a family and I kept deploying and wanted to be on the same continent, and so I got out after 8 years. Our health is no longer structured. I used to get paid to work out, and I got more done by 7 a.m. than most people got done by 3 p.m., And so a lot of us have bad knees, bad backs, kind of some demons emotionally, PTSD that we're not thinking about or we're not really confronting. And what Josh and I experienced is when you're fighting to stay in the heat of the sauna and you're letting that ever-increasing crescendo of heat kind of sweep over your body, and there's a discipline to it, it opens us up to feeling like we've earned the right to address some things. And so for me, one practical example is, I mentioned I did a lot of casualty notifications, and there was a time where former Gold Star mother whose son was killed in Afghanistan sent me a calendar compiled of a bunch of soldiers who died in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, which was a nice gesture. But I remember just opening that in the mail, and every other face on there was a personal face, because over half of them I did the notifications for. And
when you say notifications,
you knock on the door, in your dress blues with another notification officer commensurate on the rank of the deceased. Are you Mrs. or Mr. Johnson, son of, Corporal Joe Johnson? Yes, we regret to inform you that your son was killed at 9:24 this morning in Afghanistan. Things like that. It's just really
how many of those have you done, Mike?
I don't know. I'd have to go look back.
You probably don't want to keep score.
Yeah, that's something I'm sure I haven't done more than 60, but
holy cow.
I know I've done more than 20.
Yeah.
But 30.
I interrupted you, and I apologize, but I want others to understand notifications.
So for me, I remember later that evening coming over for a scheduled sauna at Josh's sauna that he built, and when you're in the military, you're trained to have your faculties about you. In combat, there's no time out to cry and process things unless you have a circle where because there's an ever-present threat. And so as a chaplain, I got very good at kind of having these steel tear ducts and you always have to be the calm person and the collected person to help other people. But I was able to share that calendar with Josh and another friend of ours, and the tears flowed in a way where I just don't think they ever could have for me, and it had something to do with the fight. I think there's probably some mystery in that physiologically that I don't understand. But
something to do with the what?
The fight of the heat and staying in, and just how that loosens you up. And we always pair plunge, complete plunge, head under, in ice water with sauna. And for me, that was really more therapeutic for me than, I've done 12 sessions of cognitive behavioral therapy at the VA, which I highly recommend. But there was something special about that. Some of it is, now I'm going to step on anyone's toes if they're electric or infrared, but like
fair game in here.
But for me, having I just bought the expensive Blue Flame for a reason. I like that big glass panel, and I like the among other features, I like to see that fire. And there's something about building a fire and just getting back to some primal principles, and that creates the conditions for me to be vulnerable. It's not all artificial light. There's firelight. So it's been really healing for me. We've seen that with other guys. We've seen them
with spouses.
Yeah, with spouses. Yeah, maybe you tell them about the marriage retreat we just did.
Yeah, we just took our first mobile unit down to just south of Rochester for a military marriage retreat, and half those military members, either male or female, were getting ready for deployment. And typically with the sauna, you wouldn't expect, you would expect people to sign up for certain time slots because they want privacy and all these things. And
one couple at a time. These aren't big horse trailers.
Right.
Sure.
Maximum is 6. It's really no bigger than this sauna here. But as soon as we opened it up, it was 6 deep the entire night, and I couldn't even go sauna because I was feeding the fire, and
you never stopped
and sitting outside and hearing them talk and commiserate together and cry together, but also rejoice together. Like, hey, now I know you, and I've experienced a little bit of heat trauma because that's what this is. It's heat trauma for our bodies. I've experienced this with you, and now I can take this relationship, and our loved ones are deploying, and we can continue to grow this relationship because of what we went through together.
A shared journey.
Absolutely.
Space. Fantastic.
The religious terminology that kind of gets at what we're talking is called a sacrament. A sacrament like Holy Communion, or the Catholics would say that marriage itself is a sacrament. But a sacrament, the definition is it's an outward symbol of something that's an inward reality, something that's happening inside, but we need symbology. And so I think the heat in and of itself, sitting together, the fire, the exposure to cold and back to heat, that becomes an outward symbol, something you can kind of hang your hat on mentally for something that is happening that's really powerful and somewhat ethereal and mysterious inside. So
beautiful. And speaking of sacrament, can we have a little baptism of the rocks?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And Kirk, you see this firsthand. Not so much from you have this military background, but you're seeing people come to the 612 sauna and forming this kind of bond through a journey together.
Yeah, I do, and it's interesting because I'll have these talks with my wife, who unfortunately is not a sauna fan, but she is recently.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Jumped in Lutheran pastor. She graduated seminary in spring of 23, and she's at her first call right now at a small church over in Richfield. So I'll talk to her, and then also conversations I've had with David Dragseth at Superior Sauna, who's also a ordained Lutheran minister. And he and I were talking when we were doing the rebrand for our sauna co-op. We wanted to get perspective of our current membership, our guests that are not members, and then also industry types. So I was interviewing David as an industry type. And once we started peeling that onion of the commonality of my wife and his past profession, we started talking about how the Finns see sauna as church and all those ceremonial, sacramental things you were just talking about, Mike, and how that's a legitimate way to view it. And then, which segues into the Native American sweat lodge and again this overture of not necessarily worship, but sacrament and spirituality to all those things. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, really, really cool. And Mike, as a pastor, there is a kinship amongst other denominations, right?
Absolutely,
like the priest, the Jew, and the go into a bar,
Right.
And so, I'm kind of teeing the ball up to say, we are all equal in sauna, and I would say, our religious, backgrounds start to equalize or become together in
Absolutely,
sauna.
it's a unifying. It crosses cultures too. One of the things, both Josh and I mentioned, or at least he mentioned that
Showers on?
Right.
See, talk about a religious experience.
Yes, sir.
There you
So
go.
I have to interject. Oh, thanks for that, Josh.
Thank you for that.
So this is Josh came in with a big smile on his face and put his hand on my shoulder, and it was ice cold. And I'm like, "What were you doing out there, Josh?" Well, this is late January in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which typically would be well below zero, and I'm talking Fahrenheit, not Celsius, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so we've had this bit of a January thaw, and on a whim, I rehooked up my outdoor shower because I knew there'd be 4 of us grown men here, and we could, my cold plunge is flipped over. I don't have the fancy cold plunge with plumbing and heating and all that noise. But anyway, Josh, in your own words, what did you just do?
I went out there and had a religious experience of diving headfirst under the hose and
Nicely
just
done.
getting completely rejuvenated
Exactly.
and cooling the skin.
Yeah, it's a complete reset,
Absolutely.
like
Peanut butter and jelly, as you said.
Amen to that, amen. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mike.
Oh,
but
no,
the egalitarianism of
Yeah.
faith, right?
Yeah, I think there's certain experiences that are powerful and disarming enough they cut across cultures and faiths, but sauna's definitely one of them. And when I was I just come back from Iraq in 2010, and I went to Norway with the military unit, and we trained with the military in Norway and Sweden, and they had me do a chapel service in a historic church in between kind of our cold weather survival school and another phase of it. And so I'm trying to disarm everyone with humor, and all the Swedes and the Norwegian special forces infantry guys just sat as stone cold, like unimpressed with any joke. And I just thought, wow, tough crowd, right? And then they are used to a more formal version where the pastor lines up and they all proceed out in a line, and they shook my hand and they would say things like, when you made this joke, chaplain, that was very funny. And I thought, wow, you should tell your face, and it made sense of a little bit of the stoicism of the Scandinavian culture here. But then I had the opportunity to sauna with a bunch of them, and then go out drinking with a bunch of them. Sure. And in those two settings, they were kind of equally disarming, where the laughter was completely allowed and it flowed, and the cultures that are pretty different, American infantry and Norwegian infantry, they are different, but they weren't. And so I think anything as disarming as alcohol but good for you is probably worth promoting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I didn't answer your question, though, Glenn. You asked about those relationships at 612. Yeah, when we were shut down for COVID, so many people came back right after we reopened, and they're like, I have missed this so much, and it always was the same touchstones, it's like, I miss the community, I miss every Sunday night, sauna night, people would plan out their weeks just like bowling league or book club, Sunday night, sauna night, you come to 612, you catch up with everybody else, you see what's going on. So just for the community at large, that anti-loneliness, something to do in the winter to push back against the cold, which we haven't had this year, but all those types of things, that was what coalesced everybody and brought them together, and that's what makes that such a special space and time to be. Yeah.
So Josh, tell us about the goals, like this whole Healing Heroes project. 501c3, what's the mission, what's the intention, what's the goal here?
Well, I think originally the intention with a lot of ideas born on couches, on benches, on long car rides with buddies is blow it out of the water. This is going to be $1 billion. Yeah. It's going to reach the stars, and I think it absolutely can. But and I think that like reaching the stars goal for us originally was 10 units across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and probably North Dakota. And utilizing local veterans to help store them and maintain them and transport them, and using them as more of a grassroots organization to build this. And then with hitting the 10 saunas, being able to have an application process where people who do fall in love with it and say, I need this healing on more than just a 2-week basis, be able to help fund an on-site build for them. And of course, we would love to see some skin in the game, because anytime someone has skin in the game, they respect their things more. They feel like they've earned it. And so we'd like to not maybe be able to say, oh, plop a sauna here, plop a sauna there, and give it away, and maybe it's not used, but the people who invest a little time in either helping build maybe, or helping fund some of it, and then use us to come alongside with the expertise of the sauna build, using our connections and eventual connections for stoves and cedar and wood to be able to build them a healing center in their own home.
Fantastic. So the 10 mobile can drive the brick and mortar.
Yes.
For residential.
For now, yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
And this isn't. This is relatable from the ramp projects. Mm-hmm. Do either of you want to speak to that and what?
Yeah, the ramp project is headed by a highly decorated war hero, Colonel Terry Branham, Mercy Road. He's built over 205 ramps with his team of guys over the last decade plus. They build ramps for disabled veterans and their spouses of deceased veterans who are homebound, and it really provides a level of freedom. The Lakeville VFW, Teed Up for the Troops, other local nonprofits that focus on veteran health and well-being have gotten behind that and helped finance it. Mercy Road Church as well. And so we already have kind of a well-oiled machine of people who know how to work with their hands and things like that. We have some lumber connections with Green Treat, cedar for ramps and things like that. Now we're looking for more instead of green tree, just more cedar connections and more sauna specific resources, cold plunge donations, things like that. The long-term plan, besides having the fleet, would be to have a veteran center that Healing Heroes would either own completely outright, or and it would be exclusively Healing Heroes, or partner with Wounded Warrior. We've been talking with them, or Lakeville VFW, or other groups teed up for the troops to kind of share that. But we'd have a workshop where we're maintaining these things, where we're building sauna and cold plunge units, and then we're also storing all of the trailers that are in the local area. And then there'd also be conference rooms to meet, and maybe a veteran co-working space where people, the bigger picture, if you zoom out, is really helping people who are on that predictable spiral of isolation, poor mental health, poor physical health. A lot of Josh and I's experience was in the infantry. And so, you get really addicted to cardiovascular, running every morning, doing different things like that. You get all banged up, and now you get overweight. We've been there, and it's like, how do you even get back to a place where I feel good in my own body enough to even have hope for the day? And
some of that restriction is age, but also being wounded from war, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, if you're an amputee, you're not going to be running the way you used to. But a lot of guys just have bad knees, bad backs. All sorts of different things. I have a torn rotator cuff in my shoulder from the military that it's just never going to be to the point where I can lift like I used to, things like that. We have people with burns from combat wounds, and that actually can help expel toxins from the body, because if you have, a 20% of your body burned, you're actually now putting a ton of work on your internal organs to detox. So there's some evidence that this can actually be of help in all sorts of areas. People with sleep apnea, really very common. I think 30% of all combat vets now or higher have sleep apnea. Well, I find personally that if I take a sauna before bed, I sleep like
absolutely. And here's a trick question, and Josh or Mike or Kirk, you guys could answer this one. I'm taking the king's chair. I'm controlling the steam. Mike, I wouldn't say you're demoted because
I was a little too enthusiastic.
No, you were fantastic with it.
Too much sacrament.
Too much sacrament. Josh, I think we were just sharing offline and about sometimes when you say you're in the mood, you want to hit it hot and hard. You want to hit that sauna climate like head on, right?
Yeah, you can really tailor your sauna experience to how your day went, to what your mood is.
Totally.
Sometimes I had a nice relaxing day, and I just want to, especially in the winter, just feel the warmth for a little while before my body starts going into panic mode and sweating and detoxing. So as soon as it hits 150, I'll go up there and I'll just ride it to 190, and then I'll leave.
Yep.
And just really enjoy the relaxation part of a slower sauna. And then there's some days where life kicked my ass, and I want the sauna to say, I can kick it more.
That's great.
And so you'll forget about your day. So I'll run that thing up to 210, 215, and I'll go in there, it'll punch me in the face. And my body starts freaking out and sweating instantly until I cold plunge and reset, and then let the sauna come down a little bit. And it's a good reminder of, like, our bodies can handle stress. Like, if we retrain our brain through heat therapy and cold therapy, it teaches us to deal with our stressors on a daily basis and go, I control my body. I know how to do this. I can deal with stress.
Beautiful. Yeah,
it creates resiliency. I love that. So Josh and I both have boys. I have a daughter as well, but so between our 4 boys, we've got 4th grade, 6th grade,
10th grade,
10th grade, and 8th grade. So, and they're actually friends, all 4 of them. They're all playing video games right now, and they get together even though they're all different grades, and we love to sit in the sauna with them. A lot of veterans, I find, when they deploy too many times or go to too many military schools, by the way, are designed to be as intense or more than combat, so that combat is doable. And so a lot of people are broken who've never deployed. But a lot of them really struggle with not connecting with their children. And, their kids have a surgically attached device to their hand, and they're never, or maybe dad does, or mom does. And you get in here in 180 degrees, and I've had really great connections and conversations with my kids, and I
Amen.
My daughter's 7, so she's not as into it, but I hope that continues as she grows.
Yeah, well said. Beautiful. And back to where you were speaking about earlier, Mike, you talked about vets and their ability to use sauna, as we won't say, for that feeling of exercise. I didn't want to paraphrase it any differently, but that's powerful. And then we've been talking a lot about the emotional aspect, of getting together and stuff. And there is no right or wrong percent to this, but it's such a powerful 1-2 thing about the physical and the mental. Do you think if you were put on the spot, is one a little stronger than the other? Or is it 50-50?
Is one what?
Would you say there's a little bit more of the physical benefit for veterans with sauna, or would you say it's a little more of the mental benefit? I know it's both, but if you really kind of had to try to pull it apart, does one stick out a little bit more than the other?
So for me, I sauna maybe 70% of the time by myself. And I consider those sessions primarily, it's weighted towards the physical benefit for me because I sleep better, and great sleep is just, there's no medical professional on planet Earth that's going to say great sleep is not a silver bullet for so many things. And then just the detoxification. So I have extreme exposure to burn pits from Iraq. A lot of guys, Afghanistan and Iraq. So I have some deterioration of lung and different things like that. Who knows, I laughed when everyone was concerned about the vaccine. We used to just get in line and they'd hit you with like 8 shots in each arm. Yeah. And if you'd forget your paperwork, you just go through again. So God knows what we have in us, that are sweating out. I always joke most combat veterans will never decompose after they get going. Right on. But I think when I'm in with my wife in the sauna or, talking with Josh, I think it's primarily emotional and spiritual, the benefits. For me, July 16th is a very difficult day because I was in a rocket attack and we lost 3 guys in the course of an hour. One was killed on impact. The other 2 died very slowly and of their wounds. And as a chaplain, I had the terrible privilege to be with them about 30 minutes apiece as they expired, and just got to pray with them. Obviously they're in shock, missing limbs, very difficult, very traumatic for them and for me and for the medics that were trying to stop the blood and save them. And so this becomes an imprinted anniversary that happened in 2009 in Basra, Iraq. And that day I can feel it approach. And so now the last few years, Josh and I will sit in the sauna together. And even if I don't talk about that, there's a shared understanding that I'm kind of sweating through that and we're here for each other. And so do I sleep better at night because of the detox and the cold plunge? Sure. But I can tell you that's 99% the benefit for me on any given July 16th. Sitting in the sauna is going to be emotional, mental, spiritual. So it depends on the application.
Yeah, and I'm going to just play off a mic here. And we're in the infant stages of planning really our first event for Healing Heroes called Sweat to Remember. And looking for an area in the Twin Cities, either one of the sauna companies or just a lakefront or a parking lot, anywhere where we can advertise to come and sweat to remember someone who's deployed, someone who's you've lost, and really just go through a little bit of the heat therapy of grieving, and maybe be able to let something go. Maybe it'll just share a memory. Not asking for donations or anything, but just to be able to promote sauna use in mental health and healing.
So in that instance, certainly weighted more on the mental side. But this duality of mental physical is what I wanted to call out here. Is such a beautiful thing to
it's
be
kind of like arguing which blade of the scissor is more important.
That's great. Have you used that one before, Mike? No. Is that Sauna Talk?
That's just.
I haven't heard that one in a sermon yet.
No.
I'll have
mark
to
that one.
Make a note of it.
That's a great. What would that be? A metaphor or a great symbol?
I did just use the scissors earlier. So maybe
well, I had knee surgery a year and a half ago for a torn meniscus that was fully torn. And going through physical therapy was great, but I always I've had knee problems since that day.
Me too.
And,
Welcome to the club. Do you not run now, or
I just ran 2 miles the other night.
how did it feel?
It felt great, and you know why?
Yeah.
I saunaed and I cold plunged before I did it.
Yeah.
If
We'll
my
have to
knees-
talk about that because I had meniscus knee surgery, years ago, and I'm not the same. I can't run anymore.
Yeah, the only thing that really helps take the inflammation out is cold plunge.
Amen. I know. I'm
if
with
I
you.
if I get my anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes a week, I have zero knee pain.
Yeah.
Zero back pain.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
On that note, I have a really close buddy. He now has his own sauna, so I don't see him in my sauna anymore. But before he built his own sauna, he was here, and he would he had shoulder surgery, and he would go to PT. I think it was on Wednesdays, and so I would kind of schedule a Tuesday sauna. Well, no, actually, what it was is he scheduled his PT on Wednesdays because I like to sauna Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I had a cycle going. So he'd come over and he'd stand there and he'd do this exercise where he walks his hand up the wall first, and he'd be like, "Oh, this feels so good," And then he'd go to PT the next day, and she's like, "You're doing great. You're doing great." And
Right.
so and then in wintertime he would go grab a big chunk of snow and then put it over his shoulder, and really, rubber band the area kind of deal.
One anecdote that I came across when Josh was starting Healing Heroes, I do annual little getaway where I plan out sermons for the next year, and I was at an Airbnb in Wisconsin, and some Airbnbs have books, like coffee table books. One of them was the journals of Lewis and Clark, and I pulled that up just to take a brain break from writing content. And I just kind of opened it up, and I have family in Missoula, Montana, and so I was kind of opened up to that part of where Lewis and Clark were in the journey, and there was a really fascinating kind of entry where Lewis or Clark was noting that as they were moving through the expedition, the diseases that they carried would basically wipe out a certain percentage of the Native American tribes that are trying to help them, unfortunately.
Man.
But then they came to this group of people outside of Lolo, Montana, and none of them were affected in a negative way at all from anything. They couldn't get them sick, and it was great, and they were just the most robust, healthy tribe of Native Americans. And he's like, the only thing I can think of is they lock themselves in these hot rock contraptions. So they're doing what we're doing now, and then they jump in the glacial fed streams, and then they do back and forth. And so even back at the before the West was even colonized, people were noticing the health benefits of this. So,
Native American.
yeah.
Yeah, the sweat lodge, and there's so much parallel to this this thing about serving veterans through hot and cold, and the Native American gathering of sweat lodge and coming together and sharing this a journey, like a spiritual journey through the sweat lodge ceremony.
One thing I like about the Native American tradition is it's not. I think there's a piece of it that they use that as kind of a wayfinder to what is next, a vision casting mechanism, or in the infantry would say shoot a new azimuth. When you're doing land navigation, you look at the terrain map and you look at the train and you kind of find your trajectory, and you only walk 300 paces, and then you stop again and you reorient yourself in the map and you shoot a new azimuth. But I love that because I feel like the Native Americans were onto something. When you have a clarity of mind and body and the detoxification, and you're pushing yourself through the heat, it gives you the ability to kind of get your head above the clouds of the daily stress and say, what will I really be proud of when I die? Like it's not necessarily another new vehicle or something like that. Right. It gives you a little perspective. Hey, I'd like to spend more time with my kids.
Yeah.
And I could probably do that if I rearrange some things in my life. Or I feel kind of miserable because, whatever habit or hurt or hang up that I've been nursing for a while isn't very productive, and that's affecting my marriage, or maybe I'm in a dead-end job and I kind of hate it, but it's secure and it's safe, so I just don't have the courage to leave it. I think when you're in that high heat, you have that contrast, you get those little moments of clarity, your head's above the cloud, and you can say, what if I charted and did something really kind of risky, but I can see in this moment that might be the best thing I could do.
Amazing. Love that. Great. And this could be part of the structure, for lack of better, part of the intentions of coming together is, kind of offering that in a casual way, like, hey, during this sauna session, let's think about that. And you can, as a
absolutely.
pastor, you could kind of set the stage.
It's interesting you say structure, because that's kind of something Josh and I talk about a lot, because you want to give people what I like to call mattress handles. If you ever try to move a mattress upstairs without handles, you just like curse the person who didn't put handles on them. You know, so you got to give them enough structure. But I think the things that really transform us into the men and women we want to be in our lives are more caught than taught. You know, and so there's that kind of play in the joints where it's like you want some structure, and you want, and yet you also just want to expose people to something so inherently valuable as sauna and cold plunge in and of itself, where they can have a little freedom. Because you know, as Josh was saying earlier, we get on these Facebook groups and Instagram and chats and stuff and Reddit threads, and it's like there are some people that are so structure heavy they kind of smother what could happen, and then there's some people that maybe, you know, are so agreeable that they would never have any structure, you know.
Beautiful. Yeah, great. But both in like I talk about sauna as a noun and sauna as a verb.
Oh, that's a good way to say it.
And there's in my view, I wrote a book on how to build a sauna, and I'm very into that, right?
Yeah.
And I found in the last
it's a good book, by the way.
Oh, thanks. And we'll get into that again. We can talk a little bit more about the 10 saunas, which I want to focus on.
I haven't read the book yet. I'm going on vacation in 10 days, and that is my choice of reading for that 10 days.
Well, great. And I want to tell you, Josh, a lot of contractors and builders like my book, because what they're able to do there is to, it's an open. It's written openly so that you can apply some of your skills as a builder, and through that whole cognitive work that you do. It's not setting the rules so firm, but there are simple principles in there that we'd like to follow. With sauna
guiding, not ruling over.
Yeah, it isn't like cut 8 boards at 38 1/4, and here's how you make a bench.
Here's your exact maximum square footage.
I am, that too. I know, but I've noticed on the noun side of sauna, things are getting like way over the top. And in my view, it's losing spirit. Where it's like you must do this. When you talk about the Facebook groups and the Reddits and all that. It's like you must do this. Your bench height must be that. Anything less than 8 foot is not a proper sauna. No sauna builder in Finland would ever do this. That's
or
really
even so minute. If you call it a sauna, they say you don't know what sauna is. Then
by pronunciation, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
I build saunas, and I say sauna instead of sauna, and I don't mind if someone says sauna, but there's a connotation a lot of times in those groups, like if you spell something incorrectly or if you don't know this exact term, you're not doing it properly. You might as well give up.
I know. I'm way off that train. I'm on the opposite train. I'm on this train on the noun side about follow simple building practices, but go wild and do well.
At the same time, just to give kind of the other side of things, I do empathize why people get so opinionated, because I think all of us bump into a practice within sauna that really we fall in love with, where it's easy to say you're all idiots if you're not doing that. For me, that's cold plunging. I just love the contrast, and so I just had my father-in-law up at the cabin yesterday, and he got out at 220 degrees and he got in the plunge. I said, "Put your head under, you got to do it, Dale." And he goes, "Nah, I'm not going to do it." And I had to rein it in and be like, don't force him to come to that. He's wrong, but you don't need to correct him.
If you're not immersed for a minute and 28 seconds, then 38% of your hippocampus is compromised by lack of brown fat. So you better get in there, and I'll get the stopwatch out.
Right. Only 20% of those people die. So.
That's right. That's great. So we're talking a little bit about that, like the prescriptiveness of it. But it is nice to balance that, right? Giving people the freedom to, explore sauna in the cold, how it works for them. But like you were talking about earlier, it's like giving them something to think about.
Yeah.
Like, in this case,
handles,
mattress handles. That's so great. That's why I want to get a transcriber for Sauna Talk, right?
I think so.
Yeah, mattress handles, good. And then the lightweight took off on us, Josh. He's out cooling down. But I want to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of the 10 saunas.
Sure.
Should we wait for Josh, or you want to speak to that?
We can wait for him, I suppose. But just maybe a brief background would be Josh did the initial research, and we're just talking about the trailers, Josh.
Pull that bottom lever up just a quarter, and we'll get some more juice going. Is that good? You get that?
Yeah.
I mean, when you guys are telling me 200, 210, I purposely for Sauna Talk tone it down.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, Kurt, you want to guess what the temp is without looking? I mean, that thing may not even be working, but
Is it right behind my head?
yeah.
I'm gonna say 180.
I'm thinking 150, 150.
I was in the 160.
160.
I can't
Yeah,
squint
probably
that hard.
160. Mike, you want to throw
my
your
glasses
guess at the
on.
temp?
Oh, maybe 170.
Okay. And when you guys are telling me you like to ramp it up a little bit, all I did is had you, Josh, pull that lever up just a little bit, and then the stove, bam, you hear it clicking and responding.
Yeah.
It's starting to speak our language.
That's
so
my favorite.
Do you know what the temperature is?
I was going to guess 160.
It's 162. You and I were almost right on the button.
Well, I don't look at that thermometer much anymore. It's all feel.
It's all feel. Yep.
Yeah, and that's good. I just felt like let's kick it up. I like what you're saying. I don't want to get punched in the face a little bit, so we'll do that as this round builds. I call it there's an article in Draft Mode talking about universality of sauna. Josh, it's the Rolando Protocol, and that has to do with my buddy Tom up on Lake Superior, where I wrote the book on how to build a sauna. I built a sauna for him, and when we would go up to sauna, which was we call it the 24-hour program. We both live in the metro, and we drive up to just north of Duluth, south of Two Harbors, and we had our routine. And we'd bring up. He's got a wood-fired pizza oven up there, and I'd get the dough and all the components to make pizza. We'd go for a walk down Stony Point. I'd come back, fire up the Kuma. He'd go up to the main cabin and finish up some work. And he'd be pissed if I didn't text and call him when it was 120. 120 was when he'd come scampering down like a kid going to the playground.
The same way. She likes the lower temp.
But he likes to ride it up, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And he goes, G-Man, let's go. Let's get on the bench. And I'm like, it's only 120, 125. And so he'd get in there with his clothes on, and he'd like finish a text or an email on his phone, which is sacrilege, I know. But he loved that feeling. I call that the Rolando Protocol of riding up round one, right?
I have a dog who is irrationally loyal to me. It's an Australian Shepherd named Blue, and I had to train him to not follow me in the sauna because it's not good for a herding dog like that. Yeah. And so I used to ride it up just so that Blue could have 15 minutes in there, and then okay, buddy, now you wait right outside.
And would Blue start like?
He was miserable, but he wouldn't leave me. I remember at Josh's time.
One of our vets that's used our sauna a couple times. He's got a pit bull. He's out in Stillwater. Owns a barber shop out there. And his pit bull comes right in the sauna, lays on the floor.
Yeah.
He's got a little dish of water in there for him because with our saunas it's hard to vent a little bit. So we use the natural door to draw cool air into the stove.
Very good.
And so it's great to be able to have the dog lay in there. And so it's his service dog as well. So not only is he having his service dog in there, he's bonding with it and healing in the sauna together, and he regularly just asks, "Can I have the sauna back? Can I be next?"
That is so cool. That is so cool. Well, I make a joke about the crack along the hot room door. Like here in America, we like it so like a mouse or maybe a small rabbit can get underneath.
Yeah.
In Finland, I mean, it's like a dog could crawl under or a cat.
Yeah.
So in the case of blind in sauna therapies, maybe we have the door with a generous crack along it, because as we know, it feeds in beautifully, and it'll be great for a service dog to hang out on.
Well, and in wheelchairs too. We've been so this is the 10th year that Mercy Road has done a marriage retreat for about 20 to 30 couples down at the Miracle Lodge, Ironwood Springs Ranch in Rochester, and that's owned by inspiring wheelchair marathon kind of sports hero, Bob Bartwell. And so he really saw how many couples used the sauna trailers back over Veterans Day weekend when Josh and I brought them down there, and it was such a hit. We were talking with him about building a large handicap accessible one with some pulleys where guys in chairs and stuff can get out. And he does wheelchair camps for kids and stuff like that. Think about how great that would be for people who are, quadriplegics and they can't detox through certain things. So
that's wonderful. That's a wonderful direction for this. So the 10 saunas, I thought, well, let's make this light here real quick. I want to do a quick rapid fire around the horn. So these 10 saunas, all mobile. We can talk a little bit about the vision or the mechanics or ideas. We can nerd out a little bit on the mobile sauna builds, what they're going to look like. And before I do that, I want to go around the horn and ask each of you three, if you could have a mobile sauna and bring it anywhere in the world, like what's the first place that comes to mind? Josh?
Boy.
Oh, up on the cliffs at Lake Superior, overlooking Superior, and be allowed to just drive it back it right up to the cliffs.
Yeah.
You know, and
Would that be a tease for you to not be able to jump in Lake Superior if it was on the cliffs?
I'd bring my cold plunge with me for sure.
And maybe we could pump up Lake Superior water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love seeing nature when I sauna, and that's really how the body is made. And to go back into a little bit of spirituality, like I believe God made us to look at things and that naturally reduce our anxiety for fire, water, air, and the earth.
Mountains,
And that's why we strive. That's why we find ourselves looking at the fire around a campfire and not even talking. We're just
Sunlight.
immersed in it because it is a natural anti-anxiety medicine for us.
Fantastic. Kirk, how about yourself?
Probably Lake Nokomis, that's right in my backyard, or Mississippi River, perhaps even, like at the River Flats or something. I think that would be an interesting locale for that as well.
And not far. So when you get
Yeah.
sauna brain and you forget your towel, or like the lost and found at the 612 Sauna Society, right?
No, that would...
Stumbling distance to home.
Yeah, like I said, I think on the river would be really neat because then you've got the university and the Minneapolis rowing clubs right there, and it's always so cool to see them out in the morning when the mist is coming off the river, and that would be like a really cool time to have a sauna down there and witness all that kind of stuff, and you'd be right in an urban environment as well, so it'd be super neat.
Mike?
For me, probably the Kenai River in Alaska. I was out there 2 summers ago fishing with a group of 8 guys from church, and it was amazing. Glacier-fed waters. I don't know how you do it. The logistics would be difficult. It's tough to get human bodies out there and not drowned or die or get attacked by a bear. But if you could get a wood fire out there and tie a rope around
Maybe
the
a
waist.
helicopter.
Oh,
It's not unreasonable.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, And then, okay, I'm gonna stay with you because we got a good role on this visionary stuff
where's
of
yours?
sauna. Well, mine changes all the time. When I ask the question, I always say first place that comes to mind, and it's not often the optimal place, but sometimes it shows where your mind is at that moment. So to answer the question, Iceland, and specifically our eldest son Grant brought his girlfriend and his drone there, and on Sauna Times you can see a recent guest post from Grant, and I was salivating looking at some of these rivers in Iceland, and I don't think it's unreasonable. What is unreasonable is I may have to bring enough carry-on wood with me
Right?
over to
There's not a
Iceland.
lot of...
Or be thinking about some serious ass solar alternative energy heat source, which is a whole nother topic. I'm brought in on a consultation project on that, which I'm super excited about. Different heat source for some. So Iceland, and I think part of that would be just the foreignness, and to your point, Josh, about connecting with God. Like that long view. That's to me a special place because the vastness and kind of like remoteness of that, but also it's kind of the different vibe than northern Minnesota. It's not wooded at all. It's just long and expansive, and and I want to have a mountain bike. A couple of buddies of mine did mountain biking there in Iceland, and they're like, I said to them, are there trails? And they're like, the whole of Iceland is a trail. So there's my answer for you. And I want to ask a different question on this one. So you're in Alaska and you're on this river, and who would you want to share time with on the bench? Like, who's the first person that comes to mind in this this sort of vision? Who's the first person that comes to mind? Anybody in the world, dead or alive, past, present?
Actually, a person doesn't come to my mind, but a group of people. So I've had one of the crazy parts about being a pastor and a former Army chaplain is I've done a lot of funerals. I did over 100 funerals before I turned 30, believe it or not. Wow. And I'm 41 now, and I kind of stopped counting on those, but I've done at least a dozen or more funerals for service members who have taken their own life. And some I've known pretty well, some I haven't, but I would just love to bring those guys, whatever group that is, and to have them on the bench, because I think when you're exposed to, as Josh is saying, the beauty of nature, there's something spiritual about that, but then just the disarming heat that comes with what we're doing right now, no matter what the problem is, or the despair, or the level of depression, or psychosis, or it's not as heavy when you leave the sauna than when you walk in. And I think there'd be guys here today that wouldn't be here, and that's really why I'm committed and backing Josh, because I don't necessarily need another extracurricular activity. The church is growing, and we've got already a host of veteran programs that are successful, but I really actually believe, or I strongly suspect, to be conservative, that this will help in the fight against suicidal ideation. And 22 a day is a stat we all hear about, but since COVID, that is well into the 30s. That's documented of current former warriors who are just taking their life. These are deaths of despair, and I think what we're doing right now could be such a simple and helpful tool in bringing that number way down.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's kind of a dramatic answer, but if you force me personally, probably my wife and bathing suits option.
Great. Josh, how about you? Who would you like to sit on the bench with in this mobile sauna on the cliff on Lake Superior?
My two sons.
Beautiful.
It is amazing the connection that I have, especially with my eldest son. My youngest isn't quite into the sauna yet, but he does enjoy it.
Jonah loves it. Yeah.
I never had those conversations with my father because we didn't have something like that. And to be able to have that connection point is something that I'm incredibly grateful for. And I'm incredibly grateful for that fast in Ely that changed my family's history. The future history of my family will include sauna because I saunaed one time in Ely. And my son will have connections with his sons or daughters because of sauna. And he'll have a better life because of sauna. And there's not a sauna you could tempt me with in the world that I wouldn't first say my son's.
Beautiful. That's a great. Thank you for that. Kurt, we sidestepped you, but you answered this question last time on the bench. And Lake Nokomis, who would you want to be on the bench
Boy,
with?
after hearing what Josh said, definitely my son would be on the top of the list because for the same thing, a lot of people. I'm not a sportsman, so I don't hunt or fish, but I know a lot of those conversations happen around those subjects in a fishing lodge or a hunting shack or something. For us, it had always been speedways. We go to motorsports events every year, and that's our father-son time, and that's when we're sitting around the campfire at night. That's when we have those talks. But he is a sauna fan, and he'd enjoy that. If he was unavailable. I don't know, somebody interesting, Ernest Hemingway, Jim Morrison, somebody who would be interesting to just sit quietly with on the bench and see where that conversation has, what sort of direction it would.
Love it.
Yeah, how about you?
Oh, well, I'm in Iceland, and again, first person that comes to mind is staying in the family circuit. My father, and I think he's really compelled me to be in this moment right now with you, because he's passed away. He's been off this earth here for close to 10 years, but during the last bulk of his life, we talked a lot about two things as it relates. He was a captain in the Navy, and so he got to do a lot of space age travel. As a captain, he was like put up on there on the top of the high list thing, and had just some great experiences at a lot of different bases around the world and through travel and stuff. And there were two things that really pumped him up. My day job, I worked for Nestle for 20 years in the vending area, and so he was like, man, we should get you into the vending world on these bases. And I'm like, man, if I could travel around Europe and serve vending machines. Yeah. But the other bit is this, exactly what we're talking about right now. And it's a little bit, it's very close. We talked a lot about sauna at VA hospitals and being able to bring this practice in, directly on some of these VAs. And so that's an intention that I have, like deep in my heart, to advance. And to find out what you guys are up to just means a lot to me. And my father on the bench in Iceland.
Thank you for being a military kid. That's not an easy hat to wear.
Well, he was a reservist for most of his career. He was a principal, and then what I remember specifically, we grew up in Buffalo, New York. He would drill one weekend a month down in Erie, Pennsylvania, and those weren't bad in crappy weather times, but I know it was tougher. It was a sacrifice for him. It was a commitment to our country for him to do that on these gorgeous spring, summer, fall days in Buffalo, New York,
Right,
when
yeah.
he could be out golfing, you know.
Yeah.
Although I always say to people, I've been active duty, Army Reserve, Guard here in Minnesota, Guard in California. Got to do joint branch training, and my observation as a non-combatant, as a chaplain, just where you get to observe a lot. I'm not a warrior, I'm there to support warriors.
Yeah.
So you just get to observe people watch, be kind of like a scientist or an anthropologist. And I would say that any organization whose mission statement is to kill people and break things means that anybody who wears a uniform in any regard, no matter how little or how long, you're going to go into a coal mine, and you don't go into a coal mine without getting some dust on you. And that gets passed on to your kids in some good ways. There's some post-traumatic growth that can come from the dad voice you can develop and boundaries you can set.
Yep.
But there's, my dad was a cop for 33 years. He was undercover narcotics and saw a lot of stuff before PTSD was even a thing. That they just told you to drink more whiskey and you're fine, And so I just want to thank you and anybody who's a military family member, because there's a reality of sacrifice whether you're aware of it or not.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And thank you for having us on the podcast.
Absolutely.
This is my
I don't
pleasure.
even feel like we're on a podcast. We just love talking about sauna,
There's
our organization.
so many cool things. And off mic, I hope you guys don't mind listening, but we're going to get nerdy about the build specifically. And I want to encourage anybody listening to stay with us on this journey. And again, part of my intention of getting on the bench here with the four of us is to really set a stake in the ground of the budding opportunity we have with this purpose. And I know others listening are going to respond, and we're going to have a way for others to help in this.
Yeah.
You made a great point about skin in the game and having people that may want a sauna to be pounding some of the nails, and it also goes with the inclusion of others. And that's why I keep referencing your 501c3, because that really kind of sets a tone of intention for what it's going to be and what it is.
Yeah, and we'd actually love to have you guys out into our sauna.
Love it.
I'd love to do that.
And we'd like to park it on a lake and cut a hole. So we can have some cold plunging fun, be on a lake,
Absolutely.
and let you guys experience our trailer and what we've built.
Right on.
Well, mobile sauna makes all this really possible, and the ability to deploy a fleet, as you're saying, kind of opens the door for the brick and mortar, right?
Right.
And it also opens the door for some really cool events, like some really cool gatherings we can have. I call it in the public domain, where maybe we're renting a park. With Three Rivers Park District. That's an organization that seems to be very loosening up to sauna, right, Kirk?
Yeah, I think it would be, when you guys were elaborating on who your primary sponsors are and who's been giving gifts in kind and all that kind of stuff, I was just, this list was running through my head of potentials like, USAA or potentially participating in a veteran stand down somewhere, or, there's just...
Well, and we've actually had a lot of requests, so the scale is not something that I think we'll be challenged with, because the idea is helpful enough where people see that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And in part because there's a lot of well-meaning veteran nonprofits that aren't very focused. They just say, hey, we're going to help with suicidal ideation. How?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't really thought about that, but we really feel bad about it. We're going to help. Yeah. Well, those tend to fizzle out, and so there is pots of money, but I think what we are really concerned with now is building an adequate fleet to respond. So, for example, the Minnesota Army Guard has sent us 2 requests for events up at Camp Ripley where we bring at least 3 trailers to do alternative fitness experience for soldiers coming back from deployment and leaving for deployment. We'd love to say yes. We only have 2 trailers built right now. And so, I wonder, is there somebody out there that has an old 2-horse trailer that wants to donate for the 3rd trailer, or a good connection to Cedar that expedite our funds? Because again, Josh and I both run companies. He runs a construction business and I run a church, and they're both growing, and so there's the margin is only so much. But when we build probably that 3rd, 4th, 5th trailer, it just changes the events that we can do.
Wonderful.
Or is there a mobile sauna business out there that would want a tax write-off or a donation of certain units for an event like Sweat to Remember, things like that. So we're trying to be open to whatever, but Josh and I don't take any money. we've invested a couple thousand, $5,000 to $6,000 a piece in our own money, and then just countless volunteer hours to get it going. This isn't really something that we are doing for any other reason than it's so helpful for us, and we want to share that.
And New Creations down in Northfield. It's a ministry for people coming out of prison to learn how to work on vehicles. In a Christ-centered area.
Yep.
And he donates his time to paint and weld, and
He taught me how to weld.
Bondo our
for it,
trailers, and he's painted the first one a green and a cream color.
Kind of a vintage World War II infantry.
Yeah, right on.
And our next one's going to be blue in honor of the police and Navy and Air Force.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a red one for firefighters and the Marine Corps.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Kurt, I got to jump over to you on this, Kurt.
Yeah.
Because I've been asked this just recently. Like, I was at the Sauna Village yesterday and ran into JP, and he's running wire behind. There's 22 saunas there at the Sauna Village in Malcolm Yards. And we were doing a sauna talk, and John turned to me, and he asked me, and he says, did you ever think it would be like this? And he kind of caught me off guard with it, with the question. And I think I'm going way back, like, say, when I came back from, I lived overseas in the mid-'80s as a college kid, hitchhiking around, and found myself on an island between Sweden and Finland and got exposed to sauna that way. That's where I caught the bug.
Yeah.
And I brought it with me back to America, and I moved to Minnesota. I'd like to say because of sauna, but in the bigger answer, it's because of nature, right?
Yeah.
And sauna is an integral part to that. But anyway, when things were rolling early on, and I started Sauna Times in 2008, and things were very fringe. This was really fringe.
You
And
liked the band before the band got cool.
Yeah,
that's
Well,
right.
they were playing in the garage. Yeah. I used that
I got
metaphor.
the T-shirt before they got signed.
But anyway, to that context, I was asked yesterday, did you ever think it would be like this? And that's where I want to put you on the spot, Kurt, is based on this. What Josh and Mike were just speaking about is the word that comes to mind is the acceptance of sauna that exists today. And I just am time warped by this conversation in that you guys are saying this with complete confidence that we will get stakeholders to sign on and we will do all that stuff. But this wasn't how it was, until recently.
No, and I think you're exactly right, because I remember, as I said, I came home from Camp de Nord, and that would have been 2016. A quick Google search for public saunas locally. I mean, it was 612 was the only hit I got, I think, on it. And once you're involved in it, you see it everywhere, of course. But even the general public now, I mean, there's no way they could ignore that. It's in the media. It's got enough coverage, and I think with your work with the Institute, there's enough existing empirical data and more being produced every day from legitimate medical sources that say this is what everybody thinks it is. It really is this helpful modality for all these ailments and ills. And to your point earlier, it's like that's been known by native cultures all around the world for thousands of years. It's just
But as recently, and I say recently, as like the 80s and 90s and even the 2000s and stuff, this was very fringe, right? Like it was almost sauna, like in this Americophobia of nudity or lewd. There was all of these people, like I joke, people used to make fun of me. Now they all want a seat on the sauna bench.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that's funny about that, my dad was a cop for 33 years. He did undercover narcotics and sex crimes and all sorts of stuff. For a period of 3 to 5 years, he worked in Minneapolis and Richfield in different departments where he and another guy would try to bust sauna parlors that were used for prostitution.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so he'd have to go and he would pretend to be this
He'd have a
nerdy
towel
golf
and-
ball salesman and he'd get these women to confess to
There you
verbally
go.
what they're...
Yeah.
And so when he found out, what is my son doing is building these trailers that are saunas, there was still that stigma.
Stigma.
He had sat in it and he goes, wow, this is really nice. But I think they were used as a front for vice and different, different nefarious
they were.
behavior.
And, I know I had that conversation today, and I can't remember if it was here or not. But that's some of the troubles that operators are running into. Is there's all these ordinances still on the book for sex trade operations that were mislabeled, and the ordinance mislabeled them as saunas and massage parlors, and now legitimate operators of those institutions can't get into places because it's still on the books.
Yeah.
So all that has to be undone. Which,
Right.
And it's a generation, and I think we're there. And
Yeah.
it's so exciting.
Was
acceptance.
COVID a big part of that? Or
I think so. I think that really Kurt alluded to the reported health benefits of
Yeah.
sauna, and and it's a different thing. Like it's not the sauna that our parents read about in the paper, kind of
Right.
a thing. And so really, I think that all of us mentioned the word nature tonight, in this podcast, and I think that this is like one of the tipping points of a different practice
without
with
a
the
doubt.
same word.
Yeah.
And by bringing this to nature, there isn't any of this stigma of the previous generation of sauna in North America.
Sure.
Yeah, both in quality and,
Well, thank you too for being kind of forerunners to pave the way so that we could come along and find a good climate.
It's kind of, and I know I overuse this all the time whenever I talk to you, but it's like where craft brewing was 20 years ago. Everybody's super excited and amped up about what they're doing within this space, and you'll see it out at the Sauna Village. Those guys are sort of kind of in competition with each other, but it's a good spirited competition because they just want to move the industry forward, and the cutthroat stuff and market share can come later. They're not concerned about that now.
But what's unique about it is, I don't know if you guys know the Enneagram personality test. It kind of measures your behavior for different personalities. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, which means I'm an enthusiast about a lot of things, and I can get excited about a lot of hobbies, and I have. But I don't see an end to this because it's so tied to mental, spiritual, physical well-being that, axe throwing was fun for a few years, but then I got sick of it or whatever,
Yeah.
Craft brew's great until you get so big that it hurts to put your socks on, and then I had to stop drinking as much beer. And here I just feel better and better every year I do this.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's funny because when I'll be hosting, and I've heard this over and over again, and I've mentioned this to Glenn, is that I'll have people tell me that they're going to build a sauna at home. So they're like, and I always direct them to Glenn's website. So I'm like, look, he's got an ebook. Look at that. I figured it all out. And their point is they love hanging out with the neighbors around the fire pit in the spring and the autumn, and they miss that in the winter. And they want to have the neighborhood adult playhouse, and that's what they're going to do. Is they're going to build a sauna for that purpose to again build community, which is better than national night out. You get everybody in here and you actually know your neighbors.
Yeah. So
do all
there's
that
this,
kind of
this
stuff.
great acceptance of
Yeah.
it, and it's like the right time for this project.
Oh, yeah.
that
I
you
think so,
guys-
for sure.
that I want to say we, and even those listening, this is an inclusion project.
Yeah, it brings people out of isolation. I remember my dad was grilling on a charcoal grill once when I was a kid, and he brought me and my sisters over, and he was always into lessons in life, and he said, "See this little briquette here? Look how golden hot that is." He said, "Now watch when I move it over just 3 or 4 inches. Now just what's happening, Mike? Well, it stopped glowing.
Yeah.
It's getting cold." He goes, "That's how life is. You gotta find friends, good influences, and you gotta bunch together, and you gotta stay warm together." And that always stuck with me, and I think that's why I like the wood fire, because as I build the fire and mess with it, and sometimes you see a log kind of tip over and get isolated, and it's not contributing to the warmth, and, and then you put them together and it's back, so.
And we're going to nerd out on your builds. You say you have a stove at home?
Yeah, I do have I have a 10 by 12 shed. I just moved to Lakeville in June, and I live in an HOA, Homeowners Association, and I've had my second official notice about trailers
Okay.
So you can't have a trailer in the driveway, and
Okay.
I've pushed that about as far as I can go unless I want to pay a monthly fine. So I ordered the Blue Flame, saved up for that, and we're
Great.
kind of Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University, so
Yeah,
I
love it.
paid in cash, and
Yes.
it's kind of a pricey purchase for a pastor, but I really was impressed by Garrett and Lampa Manufacturing, Kuma, and thought, that HOA, I wanted a clean burn. I don't want any excuses to pull that out.
Hey, look above.
Yep.
Oh, that is clean. Yeah.
That's foreshadowing for you.
So, anyways,
Your neighbors won't know.
I've got the beautiful medium blue flame right in my garage, sitting there, and the problem is we're working on these trailers, so I'm building saunas, but I'm not building the one
Your
in the
own.
backyard. But I do have a freestanding 10 by 12
Perfect.
shed. We built stairs down to it. It backs
Lovely.
up to a pond, and can't wait to get after it. And reading through your book right now, which is super helpful. I'm a little indecisive because there's so many cool things I can envision.
I know, but we don't need to, unless people want to listen to this, I could keep recording, but I'd love to talk through your build and any questions you have or nuances. What I love about like the shed to sauna conversion is there's a level of like guardrails of things to do that are the right things to do. But there's certainly a lot of room. It's like the mountain biking in Iceland metaphor. You can go off trail and craft your own. And that's what I love also about sauna. As a builder, Josh, I think you can relate. You can craft your own patina with it.
Right. It's like putting a new bathroom in your house. It has to have a couple certain things. Yeah. But after that, the world is your oyster, and everyone still calls it a bathroom.
Yeah, right on.
Right?
Gotcha.
A sauna has to have a few certain things.
Yeah.
But other than that, have fun with it, and as long as you enjoy it, the aesthetics, the feel.
But you probably shouldn't corner the toilet.
That's good. Yeah, you want to be able to get into the. You want to be able to add wood to the stove. Put it that way. Well, let's take it out. Final words, and we're gonna end with you, Mike. And I'm gonna put you on the spot. And if it sounds hokey, we don't have to do it. But a little prayer, okay, and. Thank you, Josh, for this moment, and Kurt and Mike. Final words for listeners of Sauna Talk. A beautiful project that is budding right in town here in Minnesota, and that's another fortuitous thing. But we have an Ely connection, we have a northern Minnesota connection. We have this wonderful thing. So thoughts, Josh, on the future and this great thing we're going to be doing.
I see just a future of thousands of veterans finding a different way of healing. A lot of us don't trust the government or the VA or doctors or anyone really, but they can trust their own body and their own feeling. And sauna gives them that opportunity to experience their own healing.
Riffing on what Josh just said, the peer group is going to be the easiest way, I think, to access veterans. They will be, I think, more receptive to that. I certainly would be, with one of my battle buddies, to do that than from somebody that you don't know. It's a lot easier to open up. And if you've got a ready-made space that allows for reflection and just contemplative thought, those conversations will come up eventually. Slowly, probably at first, but they will happen,
Great. Well, I'll close this in a prayer. Gracious God, thank you for these gentlemen around the sauna, and thank you for the years they've dedicated to bringing something that's truly valuable, a true blessing to people in pain and people at the pinnacle of joy in their life and everywhere in between. And I just pray that Healing Heroes would continue to the degree it will help veterans, warriors, their families, first responders, people in grief, people struggling with suicidal ideation, people who want to take a new turn in life. If that would help them, I pray that this would to that degree flourish and scale. And I just ask humbly, Lord, that you would bring the right people and resources and logistics to the table. Thank you for letting us be a part of this evening. Thank you for the gift of heat and cold. And I pray this according to my faith tradition, as I would welcome others to pray according to theirs. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.